Perfect. Yeah, so with a background in English and psychology, she joined the entrepreneurial world and spearheaded an in-person community that grew from zero to over 400 active members in under 6 months. And currently, she consults with multiple startups, assisting their community growth. So the topic that she'll be presenting today is, should I build a community for my business? Building a community is not one size fits all. In today's session, you'll learn whether your business would benefit from a community, what type of community you should nurture, and how to make it happen. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Gabriela and she'll kick us off with the session.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Peggy, for having me. A little bit more about me. I'm a community lead in Vancouver, as Peggy mentioned. And what this means is that I get hired by companies to start and then grow their communities with various goals in mind. And my biggest community achievement so far has been Meet Your Co-Founders, led by the Co-Founders Hub. And we started as a small coffee meetup, usually 10 people, and then it grew and grew until we had to find a venue. And now we boast over 400 to 500 in-person members in the greater Vancouver area. I've also been invited to do panels, including one at Vancouver Startup Week, and also talking in podcasts about community buildings and its best practices. I'm currently working on building a community for New Bell. I don't know if you heard of this company. It's also Vancouver based. The founder is Abel Osorio, and we're working together to form a community for job seekers, specifically newcomers to Canada. And I'm also collabing with other big names such as Chris Krug in Vancouver AI community, etc. Some of my other talents and passions lay in copywriting, line editing, communications, and teaching English as a second language and writing fiction. So today I'm going to be talking about community building. And a big disclaimer is that this entire presentation is based on my own personal experience. I've done research in the past, but I'm only holding on to the things that stuck with me and that have proven useful. I'm not using any AI generated content. So everything that all of my notes written by me, all of the PowerPoints, all me, and none of it is pulled from other sources. And when I do use case studies, I'll mention it. I believe that you have Google, you know how to use it. So if you're here, you want to learn from my experience and from what actually happened in real life. Today we're focusing mostly on in-person communities because that's where I have the most experience in, but a lot of these takeaways can be used for online communities also. Okay, I'm going to share with you the presentation. Can everybody see? Okay, great. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we're going to look at today. First, we're going to be talking about how to build a community and learning what type of community to build for your business needs. The first thing I want to cover is whether you should build a community. What can a community do for me? What do I want from my community? What problem are you trying to solve? What can I provide my community? So we have to ask ourselves also, what can you give to a community? Because it is a symbiotic relationship. And can you nurture a community long-term? This is a long-term endeavor. It's not something you can just pull out of your hat, use for a month or two, and Bob's your uncle. You have to actually commit to it long-term for it to be valuable. And then once we've decided if we should build a community, we need to decide what kind of community we need to build. So we're going to go through the different types of community, the different purposes of a community, two different things, the benefits of each type of community, our goals, our members, and our target audience. Then finally, we're going to learn how to build a community, how to provide value to a community, what not to make community building about, and the challenges of building an in-person community. And then we're going to learn how to nurture this community, how to keep it growing, how to keep it going, and how to have it grow even further. We're talking about branding, approachability, availability, and ethos, how to attract the people you want to see in your community, and importantly, moderation and control. So without further ado, here, what is community? So a community can take various shapes. It can look like an online forum, an email list, a Slack, or a Discord channel, or even a group where people meet every month to talk about an interest in common. A community is supposed to add value and connection to your life, be it professionally or personally. So if you have a business, you might be thinking of building a community for it. First, let's think about whether you should build a community for your business. I'm going to give you an overview of the different types of community so that when we speak about it, we can reference to these types. So some of these types are a goal-oriented community. So these are communities that meet with a goal in mind. You'll see it like a writing group, a running group, a wine tasting group. They meet to do a thing. Very simple. Another type is a connection-based group. So we have a group in which the entire purpose is to meet other people. So Meet Your Co-Founder was a great example. It's a community about meeting other people. And you can also have it more mentorship focused. We have communities that are meant to help you. One that I see, there's one in Vancouver, which is kind of a mix of both. It's called PM Hive, and they both provide a lot of talks and also the networking aspect. So you can have a community that's a mixture of more than one of these. You can see it also in Toastmasters. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Toastmasters. It's a community dedicated to people who want to get better at public speaking. So you go there and you go up on stage and you practice public speaking and you get graded. It's a whole thing. And then there are also business first communities. They're highly branded. They are part of a business's advertising, but they also provide some of the other aspects of this community building. So back to, should I build a community? The first question you need to ask yourself when you're thinking about building a community is, why do you want to build a community? What do you want from building a community? If your answer is to sell a product, I'm saying don't bother. There are way easier ways to sell your product with advertising, word of mouth, marketing. Community is not for selling product. Creating a community is about giving back, doing a service to your community and genuinely caring about your members' problems. If you're genuinely wanting to build a community to create a safe and valuable space for your members, ask yourself the second question: what can a community do for you and your business? So a community won't help every single business or founder, and it's really up to you to decide whether it's worth the investment and effort. For example, if you have a clothing brand, what can a community really bring to you? Probably not much, unless you have, if you want to sell to the masses, or if you have a very specific group, probably not much. However, if you have a yoga studio and you want to give back to the community, hosting community yoga sessions is great for your brand. It's great for the community, and it will elevate everybody's experience. So that is an example of a business that will actually benefit from a community. So if you've decided that a community is the way to go, the next step is deciding what kind of community you'd like to build. It doesn't have to fit only one of these. It can fit into multiple categories, but it's helpful to have a goal in mind before when you're starting? Actually, I want to take it back. I forgot to ask a few questions about whether you should build a community or not. Some questions that you should ask yourself, whether you want to build a community or not, is what do you want from your community? So do you want to create a space for your members that they would benefit from? Do you want to give back? Do you only want to sell products? Do you want to sell the community itself? That is something that a, a lot of people don't know about, but you can actually sell your community once you've grown it enough. What problem are you trying to solve by creating your community? Ask yourself that too. Outline it concretely before you start your community, but don't be afraid to adapt. A lot of the times you think you know what your audience needs, but they need something different. Maybe just a little, maybe a lot different, but be open to adapting your goals to fit your niche, but also use your intuition and your expertise to know when to say no. Adapting to what your community needs will make community building easier and more successful in the long run. And think about what you can provide your community. So it's all about what value you can bring a community. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a master networker. Sometimes all a community needs is an organizational leader. Are you up for that task? Do you bring expertise? Expertise is also great. If you're an expert like Peggy in design, MVP, and you can provide great insight to a community, by all means, take that lead, go with it. If you know a lot of people and you can bring a lot of keynote speakers and special people to talk to your community, also run with it. But if you can't think of anything concrete that you have to offer, think about what you could, think about the space that you could fill in that community. Sometimes it can be just simply hosting, being that leader, being that voice that brings everybody together is also extremely valuable. And then the other thing I was telling you about before is, can you nurture this community long term? It is a long-term ordeal and it will not provide value if you start it and drop it halfway through. If you have the time to build a community, do it, but it's not easy work and you need to invest in its upkeep. So if you've answered all of these questions and you're still convinced that a community is going to be helpful for you and your business, we can move on to the second stage, which is the purposes of the community and how to pick one. Okay, and we're back. So community, this is completely my theory. These are the communities I've seen, and this is how I see where they fit. Sometimes you get a community for the sake of community. It either solves a problem or it connects people. It solves a problem that your audience is facing, or it connects like-minded people to each other. That can stem from a gap that you see in your city or in your online space or wherever you're existing. Perhaps it starts because you think you would benefit from a community like that and you'd like to see it happen. Say you're a runner and there is no running group in Vancouver and you're like, wow, I would love it if there was a meeting group in Vancouver. So you go ahead, build it. For example, Meet Your Co-Founder started because a lot of people kept asking our founder, hey, where do I meet a co-founder? Where can I go meet a co-founder? Can you connect me with a co-founder? And there wasn't anything in Vancouver that filled that niche specifically. So we were like, let's create a community. We'll invite all of these people that have been asking for it. And that was really easy because we didn't have to carve a space for it. People already wanted it to happen. Another example, I was recently invited to a girls in tech community in Vancouver, and its entire purpose was to connect women in tech. This type of community just promotes connection, support, and networking and ties into bigger movements. So it could be a women's community, a queer space for LGBTQ, something like that, that ties into a bigger, larger community, like a sub-community. The purpose is it makes you feel less alone, more connected to the ecosystem, and it can help you find your next opportunity too, especially in business communities. These networking opportunities are super valuable. So the lesson here is that you should always listen to your audience before building a community. What are they asking for? What do they need? Ask people what they want, what they're missing can save you a lot of trouble in the long run, instead of trying to carve out a space that doesn't need to be there. Just slip into a space that people are already asking for. That is one of my number one tips when people are asking for community advice. Listen to your audience. Also, don't be afraid to be very niche. It's very easy to want a community for everyone, but those are not as attractive as communities that are hyper specific. So think, instead of creating a writing group, create a writing group for women that write creative nonfiction. It feels like you're limiting your options, but you're actually making it more enticing for the people who fit that niche. Because maybe a woman doesn't want to join a writing group, but if they see themselves reflected in the title, in the ethos of the community, they're way more likely to join because they want to meet people like them. A community that's built for the sake of community is about connection and is about bringing like-minded people together. So making it extremely niche is actually quite helpful. What are the benefits of building a community for the sake of community? So a community for the sake of it is the benefits are you're serving your community and you're providing them with value and connection. In terms of your brand, simply having your brand associated with a well-established, well-liked, and valuable community will build trust, provide advertising as a side effect in a really non-in-your-face pushy way. So when they see your brand name elsewhere, they'll recognize it, they'll associate it with the community they've had a good experience with, and be more inclined to trust and participate. It's also a great way to assess product market fit. If you have a close and trusting relationship with your audience, you can use that to your advantage when you're building your product and services. Be flexible, ask them what they would like, ask them what they need and what they would pay for, how much they would pay for. Remember, it's all about what you can offer them and how you can make your life better, their life better. So think about it like this. You create a community for the sake of community, but you then have access to your target audience, to your customer directly. You don't have to go through any other platform because you already have a connection to them and they already know you, they already trust you. So if you have a business that would benefit from that, it is quite valuable to create that community space. So to summarize, the pros are you're growing something valuable for your audience, you're nurturing a space of trust and community, you can become well known in the space for your community and become a go-to person in your niche if you play your cards right. You'll also have influence in your community. And you can also start, if you grow your company enough, you can get attention of other companies and have sponsorships and have companies advertise with you. That's also a whole other thing. And you have an established audience to market to if you ever take that route. So if you have an audience already and you have their emails, you have access to their inboxes in any way, when it comes time to market, you already have a direct line. The cons are selling and promoting can be a little tricky if you've built a community for the sake of community. If you built a community whose entire ethos was being altruistic, just wanting to give back, and then you try to sell them something, that can be met with a little bit of backlash. So you have to think about the whole path from start to finish and do it very carefully. And the path to lead conversion can also be unclear depending on what kind of community you're building and what you're selling. So that's also something you have to think very carefully about. Okay, so the second type of community is community to promote. It's way more straightforward. You want to sell something. So you want to sell something, demo, think, but you have to think, what will your community gain from this experience and what is the purpose? These tend to be more one-off events or a series of events. If you're choosing to build a community to promote your product only, you are going to need more value, which often comes in the shape of capital. Building a community for the sake of community, you can get away with being cheap depending on what you're building your community around. But when you're promoting something, you have to make sure you're providing a lot of value. And that often comes in the shape of free demos, free food, keynote speakers, because bringing people through the door by offering them something valuable that they don't have to pay for is what you're going to have to do, because they're doing you a favor for being there. You're selling to them, so they're doing you a favor, and you have to compensate them for your time. And in exchange, after you provided them with something valuable, then you can sell them something. Consider it to be part of your advertising budget, for example. So pros. The pros are, if you're building a community to promote your product, to demo your product, you're allowed to sell, you're allowed to demo, market however much you want, provided you're also providing them with value. You can also build an email list and get their names, get access to their inbox whenever you want to promote your product further. If you curate exciting events, you will have your brand associated with that. Think about brands that are known. I don't know if you all have seen the Red Bull sports extreme sports events. So that's a series of events that lead to a community that have Red Bull associated with something very exciting. But those events are expensive. They put on a whole show, they sponsor everything, it's $1 million production. So yes, it's more costly than a community that's for the sake of community. You will need to focus on providing value to your audience instead of just connection and networking. And people might be a little hesitant about being sold to in person, so it might be more challenging to get them through the door. The third type of community is when community is the product. I mentioned this before. You can actually sell your community to other people once you've built it enough. There are companies that will buy your community from you once they reach a certain number, or if they're very interested in tapping into that market. It's a very, very specific type of community building that I don't have any experience with, but it can be quite lucrative. Idea is you create an online or in-person community, grow it to a significant number, offer it to a third party, and then that's that. I've heard about communities being sold for from $10,000 to $100,000 depending on its size and niche. But this is like a whole other presentation. Maybe we can assess it at a later date. Pros: make money fast, or I guess not so fast, but it's a quick turnover. You can do it as many times as you want for as many niches as you want. And you can sell any community that you built. Even if you build a community that you didn't aim to sell, you can still sell it. What selling it means, I don't know if I explained this to you, but basically you just provide access to your community. If you're the moderator, if you're the host, you just let everybody be acquired by a third person, a third party. The cons are you likely lose access to your community. They will probably take over all of it. So you won't be their leader anymore. You won't be their go-to person, etc. And you will have to start over every time you sell. Those are the cons. Another interesting type of community that I read about, but I don't have any experience in, is community to find product. So you build a community, find what they're missing, and then create a product to serve them. It's very niche, very specific. This type of community is for when you're still trying to figure out what you want to build. So I read a case study of someone who wanted to build a product, but didn't know what to build. So they built a community for runners because that was something that they were passionate about. Once they had a community, they started inquiring about products that would make runners' lives easier and came up with a product, I believe it was a backpack for runners that solved a very specific issue for their community. Very smart marketing idea. Talk to the people you're selling to, build something that they already want. After the product was built, they already had their target audience on lock and the trust was established, it was already there. Selling was easy. This is a great way to ensure product market fit, as long as you're building a product that your audience is identifying for you. The community can be low cost and networking or goal oriented, and the whole point is just to get direct access to your audience so that you can learn what they need. Pros are you ensure product market fit, you have trust, you have branding, you become an influencer, top voice for your audience and community, and you have access to your audience's thoughts, opinions, and feedbacks directly. The cons are you might take a while to build a community that is big enough, and it might be costly to run a community before you have a product and are selling it. And it does require effort to maintain the community. Okay. Where are you all? So next part is how to build this community. Sorry, my slides are not in order. First, I wanted to talk about how to provide value for the community. So as I said before, the first rule of community building is to provide value. Most of the time, the value in community building is the connections that people make along the way. That's quite easy. That is more, then you'll have to focus more on getting the right people through the door. So when this is the case, your audience becomes essential. Attracting the right individuals that fit in with your community is of utmost importance. If you host a community, for example, if you host a community for founders and what you get is mostly job seekers through the door, your community is not going to provide value for other founders. You're not going to attract the right people and it's going to flop. So the way to deal with this, a few community leaders in Vancouver, they resolve this issue by requiring approval for every registration for every event. So they ask questions upon registration request, ask for people's LinkedIn profiles, ask about their job, their status, whatever it is they're trying to figure out, they'll ask. Other leaders elect to have the price point reflect the level of interest of the participant. For example, if I'm a job seeker that wants to go to a community for founders, but I learned that it's $10, perhaps I won't go. I'll be discouraged. However, if this community really fits with my goals and my intentions of networking with founders, then perhaps I'll probably pay the $10 and I'll fit in with what the community wants. That is, charging for event can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing. It's not very black and white. It really depends on what kind of community you're building and what you want to provide your community and what you want from your community. A lot of the times, if you're hosting in a space that is not public, so it's not a coffee shop, you're probably going to have to pay. Do you then ask for the cost of ticket to try to fill that price, or do you pay it yourself. It really depends on what kind of community you're building. If it's community for job seekers, for example, it may not make sense to charge per ticket because job seekers generally are saving a lot of money. If you're making a community for high-end people in tech, successful founders that have already sold, then it makes sense. It makes more sense to charge a higher price, right? So you'll see it reflected on the types of events that we have in Vancouver. Some founder events cost $200 for a seat at a table. But events like Meet Your Co-Founder, the most we ever charged was $5 because it's people who haven't built up their business yet. So reflect the type of person that you want in your business with the ticket price, essentially. So another way to provide value is by giving your community what it needs. Simple as that. If you decided that your community requires a space to socialize freely, be the one to make it happen. Find that place, offer it to them free of charge or at a low cost. If your community requires feedback on their elevator pitch, make it happen. Organize an elevator pitch day, have everybody come in, have like Toastmasters, right? They saw a niche, they provided the need. Yes, Toastmasters. So I already talked about it. Yeah, moving on. So if you provide what a community needs really well, people will keep coming back. How do I find members for my community? That is a really big question. So when I'm building a community, how do I find the people for my community? Where do I go? How do I start? What does that look like? So one of the ways that was unexpected that I found a lot of members for my community was actually through other communities. These people are already into community building. They already want to be out there. They want to be networking. They want to be talking to other people, meeting people. They're open to it. You're not getting someone off the street. You're getting someone who's already interested in the community aspect of the city that they're in. And if you think this is poaching, it's not. Community is not a competition. It's an ecosystem. You don't have to be exclusive to any community in Vancouver or in any city. You can be part of more than one. Being in other spaces, in other community spaces, and collaborating with other community leaders is a really big part of being a community lead. Networking, advertising on social media. So the networking comes with going to meetups, going to events, and when somebody asks you what you do, you talk about your community, talk about what you do. You don't have to necessarily ask them to come, but if they seem interested, then you can send them a link. You know what I mean? Advertising on social media is an interesting one because you have to find where your community exists. We at the Co-Founders Hub, we found that our community was not on Instagram. The people that we were finding on Instagram were not the people that were coming to our meetups. The people that came to our meetups lived on LinkedIn, Luma, and meetup.com. These are people actively looking to start something. They're people looking to meet new people looking to go to events, and people looking to further their career. LinkedIn, Luma, Meetup. And then once you find where they live, then you can market through that platform. And then like any other social media, just publish, grow, do the right things. That's a whole other presentation. I'm sure you all know how to do social media. For us, LinkedIn, meetup.com was instrumental in building Meet Your Co-Founder. Meetup.com is still one of the biggest places where people go to access communities. And both meetup.com and Luma provide the marketing for you. All you have to do is set up an event and they will offer it to people who they think fits your profile, right? So very often I'll get an email from meetup.com saying, there's a new community. I think you'll like it. It's founder community or whatever. So they help you a lot because they want to see you grow the same way you want to grow. Another way is reaching out to people directly. It can be someone you've connected with before. I got a DM from one of the hosts of Girls in Tech because we had talked at an event for Vancouver Tech Week a few weeks back. And she DM'd me and she was like, I created an event for Girls in Tech. You should come. Very well received. I loved getting that message and I do plan on going. So it's not a terrible idea to reach out to people directly, provided you have some sort of connection, or else you do face the challenges of cold calls. Luma meetup, yep. Something else I would like to say is that your community will self-select. So the people that are worth having in your community are people that want to be there. So don't try to waste your breath convincing someone to come to your meetup or begging someone or bribing anyone. The people that provide value to your meetup and your community want to be there. They're excited. They're energetic. They're energized. So just focus on what you can provide that is valuable to your community and let people self-select. The people that keep coming back are the people that resonate with your goal and your ethos, and they are the ones that you want as your member. So another thing is, what is the barrier to entry for your community? Some communities have a larger than average barrier to entry, and most often it's monetary. So a few communities have a fee or an event cost. And one way to encourage people to join your community is offering free or discounted tickets the first time, and then showing people the value at a low cost. So instead of trying to be, so if I host a community event for $50 and it's really hard to get people through the door because they don't know your community. They don't know if it's worth $50. They don't know you. So what I do is I send them a ticket for free. For the first time, you can come in free. They come, if they like it, they'll want to come back. And then they'll know it's worth $50. So that is another way to market an event that has a community that has a larger than average barrier to entry. Okay, cool. Yeah, I already did this. Sorry, technical difficulties. How to go back? There we go. Oh yeah. Okay, so what not to make community building about? Community building. A community will only thrive if you care about the core values of the community that you're building. If you're hoping to make a quick buck or just sell a product, like I said before, it's better to invest in advertising. Ethos is a really big part of it too. People will sense if you're building a fake community with intentions that don't align with their values. So when you're creating your community, make sure to outline the values you want to instill in it, and then create an ethos and a purpose. Share it publicly, make sure people know what the community is about before they join, so that people align with your ethos and feel more inclined to participate. Then comes down to hosting. Hosting is going to be an instrumental part of community building. As the host, you're going to be the first point of contact of your community members. So you have to be prepared to lead by example and bring to the table what you want your community members to experience at the gathering. So it starts from the way you interact with people that come through the door. Are you excited, approachable, calm, vulnerable? This is going to set the tone for what your community members can expect from the entirety of the meetup and provides their first impression. If you're open and warm, they are more likely to feel at ease when engaging with the other community members. I've definitely had a day off when hosting Meet Your Co-Founder, where I wasn't at the top of my game and my energy wasn't great. And I did feel the difference in the room for when I was 100% there. You know what I mean? Another point to consider is branding. You have to curate the vibe. Curating the vibe, it's everything from hosting to the venue to what you offer to what is being done. Are we having a open discussion? Is it free flowing? Is it exciting? Or is it more um, dictated by events? Is it like 15 minutes for this, 10 minutes for this? Is it structured? Is it flexible? Peggy, how are we doing for time? Do we end at 9?
Yeah, we can still go for a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Mhm.
I'm just going to talk about the challenges I've faced in the community building sphere. And this is my face when I am faced with a challenge. With in-person communities, the biggest challenge is finding a venue. A venue that can accommodate a group for your size, and that is both affordable and isn't going to be too expensive or out of the way or just not doable. For free and cheap entry communities, you can't rely on the cost of the ticket covering your expense. So you will likely want to find a cheaper venue or a free venue if you can. You can try coffee shops, but likely they will want you to consume something, want your members to consume something. And that's generally fine. I found that it was a little bit too much when the coffee shop I was hosting in asked me to have people consume 2 drinks if they were going to stay for over 2 hours. I thought that was too much, so I elected to move to a private venue. There are other options other than coffee shops. Some offices will offer community hosting spaces. Co-working spaces are a great option too. We ended up partnering with C Space, who let us host there for free and just covering the cost of the meetup itself. My suggestion, start small, start free. And also, if you're having trouble finding a place to host, go on Luma, go on LinkedIn, and see where other community members or community leads are hosting their events. And from there, you can find an event, a place to host your event. I'm going to leave the other stuff for Q&A because we're running short on time. But thank you so much, all of you, for being here. It's been great. And please reach out to me at the Q&A or in my inbox at any point if you have more questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Gabriela. Thanks for doing this session for us. And I definitely have learned a lot about community building. And I also think there's a lot of similarities between building a community and building a product as well, that you should always be thinking about who are the people that you're nurturing this community with. So I definitely found it very insightful. Let me just quickly share my screen. I think, Gabriela, could you make me the host again?
Sorry, figuring it out.
No worries.
Make host, got it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so we have just learned so much in the last 5 days on developing your MVP and why is it so important, and how important it is to operate with a user-centered approach than a solution-driven mindset, and some of the key strategies and methods to find your user avatar, design with simplicity, and the validation methods to gather insights and learning to shape your product. And today we also learn about why and how you can build a community for your business. So the reason why we're sharing all of this with you and the reason why I'm running a challenge, basically, before I started working with startups and becoming a design founder myself, I was designing enterprise solutions for tech companies. And then I would just basically wanted to seek more impacts and fulfillment in my work. And that's something I realized through working with startups. As things move so much faster, I also feel like the changes I'm making that I'm seeing right away and definitely much more, it feels more impactful for me, and I'm definitely getting more fulfillment doing this. And I always wanted to build something on my own. So that's also what motivates me and drive me to be doing this. So yeah, so while I was searching for all this fulfillment, I came across those opportunities to work with startups. And but what I realized is that it's not always that easy during this process. My first project with one of my first clients, we weren't necessarily talking to the end user to understand their abilities, and what their needs are and how their needs relate to the solution that we're building for them, or even how the users are currently engaging with the platform. And then we were faced with some changes later on once we have launched. So from this, I learned that incorporating user feedback during the building process is so important. And by leveraging a lean model to do this, we were able to pivot and make changes a lot faster. So that's definitely something we were able to achieve while I was building the second project with that client of mine. And so basically this is why right now I really wanted to help early stage startups these days, and I wanted to see more of them succeed right away and then not have to go through the trial and error that I went through when I would first started doing this design work in a much more fast-paced environment. So I just wanted to share my screen quickly as what I mentioned yesterday. Okay, let me. Yeah, so basically what I wanted to share with you is a launch your winning product program. It's a 3-month program, and the goal is to help you achieve product market fit with user validation, demonstrate market potential, and attract users, investors, and generate revenue for your business. So if you're a tech founder and want to build significant traction for your product, then this is a program for you. I want to help you solve that so you can stop spending more than 60 hours a week in your business, figuring out if you have included the right features or how to prioritize, and have more time to spend with family and friends and while onboarding users and make more money. So in terms of how it works, we will be doing one-on-one coaching and customized support where as every startup will be different and comes with their own unique needs and requirements. But our angle is always try to build a solution that aligns with your vision and goals. So we'll do a consultation to figure out your business goals, your current challenges, and your product roadmap. I could also audit your current user experience, and we can figure out how we can improve in terms of user flow, product strategy, and interface design, and how everything connects as well. We'll also run through a biweekly sprint, so the design process doesn't have to take that long. And the sprint process also keeps on track of internal milestone or guideline or milestones or progress that we want to stay on track of. So this is all depend on the goals of the product roadmap and the defined user experience strategy that we figure out together. And this process also helps with prioritizing of features and functionalities that addresses main user needs while keeping alignment with your business goals. And then we will also do stakeholder workshops where we can have the internal team all be on the same page. And okay. Sorry. Thank you, Precious. Yeah, so the internal team can all be on the same page. And then we'll consider any business or technical constraints that you might have. So I just got a comment. Yeah, so the QR code might not work at the moment. Let me drop a link of that in a moment. Okay. Yeah, and then other than that, we also do comprehensive end user synthesis. We can start with referencing any insights or any data you have conducted so far. So you don't have to do extensive market research for you to begin any product development process. But other than that, we can also do end user interviews if needed to identify key patterns that drive user motivation and enable user abilities. I also have an end user avatar template that ensures the entire team can be building on top of a solid foundation, keeping in mind of who the user is and what we want to deliver to them. The whole process will be a rapid design and prototype process, so we can continuously improve and build prototypes to run through validation with the end user. And this can take forms in usability testing or A/B testing so that we validate our assumptions and gather those validated learnings for us to make enhancement on the product. There will also be weekly check-ins, so then we just have those regular touch points. So we are staying alignment with the roadmap and the project goals and ensuring we're continuously making progress and adapting to any new requirements. So as part of the challenge, I'll be offering 3 bonuses. One of them is integrated development support. So I'll work seamlessly with your development team to ensure design and functionality are perfectly synchronized. A lot of times, maybe you're designing and the development team are not on the same page, then your development actually don't end up looking like what has been designed, but that wouldn't be a problem if we are working seamlessly, and I will be providing development ready specification for handoff and collaborate with the dev team to address any questions or issues. So we are not dealing with any implementation feasibility issues when we're actually building. There will also be a post-launch performance metrics and analysis report that will allow you to measure and understand the impact of the design or the development that you're building, and understand how users engaging and interacting with it to make sure we are striving towards success of the product. And the third bonus is any training and workshops on best practices. So those sessions could empower your team with the skills and knowledge needed to for sustained product success. Yeah, so just to summarize, those are the bonuses that comes with the program and only offered to challenge attendees. And I will work with you for free even after the 3 months if you're not seeing any results or satisfied with the proposal. Or we can even begin with a trial period with a predefined set of scope that lasts about 3 to 4 weeks. So just some of the testimonials from my previous clients of their experience working with me are such. So we're coming short on time. So, okay. Yeah. So in terms of availability, I am only offering 2 spots at the moment, and the offer comes with bonuses will only stay available until Sunday, August 25th. So these are the bonuses again. And yeah, so if you're interested, slots are open until Sunday, and then you can take a screenshot of the screen or visit the website buildyourwinningmvp.com/program for more information. And yeah, we can just have a call and figure out what you want to do, what your product is, and we can do a deep dive on your product. And that will be the initial consultation, and we can see how we would take your product to a winning MVP. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining. And we are perfectly on time. And yeah, I just really wanted to thank you all for coming to the session and spending the last 5 days with us. Really appreciate you for being here. And yeah, so I will see you all in the VIP session, and Gabriela will be there as well to answer any questions that you have regarding community building. And yeah, thank you both. Thank you all so much. Okay. Okay, Gabriela, do you have the link to the other Zoom?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Then I will see you in there.
Okay.